Initial scouting report of the Jaguars in the context of their matchup with the 49ers. We can do this one throughout the city of San Francisco, starting in Japantown. With, the first thought being that this is just a great matchup between the 49ers offense and the Jacksonville defense. Number 1 DVOA 49ers offense, number 3 DVOA Jacksonville defense. And Josh Allen, the edge rusher, 9 sacks already this season. He's taken over games by himself, but he's got a great supporting cast. This guy, he'll line up primarily against left tackle. So one thing that we'll be watching this week is, can Trent Williams return time for the 49ers? If not, Jalen Moore's been good in pass protection. I think he's been actually really solid for a backup left tackle. Above average pass block efficiency. But the 49ers run game needs to keep Jacksonville off balance much better than they've been keeping opponents off balance since Williams was hurt in week 6. Jacksonville's top 5 against the pass and the run. They're good at all levels. One thing you have to remember, though, is they play a lot of zone. So there is stuff to be, gained underneath against Jacksonville. And if there's one statistical weakness here, they've given up some yak, 5.1 yards after the catch per reception. So the return of Deebo Samuel might loom large for the 49ers in this football game. You obviously pair Deebo Samuel with Christian McCaffrey. And my question here in this game, independent of Trent Williams, can the 49ers establish some sort of control over the middle of the line of scrimmage? Because I see one potential matchup advantage for the 49ers in the run game happening there. Nose tackle, Folorunso Fadukawi, 318 pounds, which is not fire hydrant size for Jacksonville, especially considering the fact that he's 6'4". So you've got a longer, more athletic nose tackle in this 3-4. And when you look at the 49ers offensive line in the middle, Jake Brendel, lighter but more athletic at that center position. No Aaron Banks in this game. It's going to be John Feliciano at left guard, so the 49ers won't have their biggest offensive lineman. And then you have Spencer Burford, who struggled, but he is, I think, a plus athletic right guard. So when you talk about neutralizing a longer defensive tackle who's not the fire hydrant type, who's not exactly low to the ground, I think the 49ers might be in for a good pairing when they're trying to do that. And they're going to have to be because, again, this run offense has not been good over its past 3 games. But there is an opportunity to regain control over the middle of the formation. And I think that's probably where Jacksonville's only crack is. Now, don't forget that it's the Trent Baalke revenge game, potentially, for the Jacksonville Jaguars. The former 49ers GM has undoubtedly done a nice job building this Jacksonville defense. Obviously, his tenure with the 49ers was a little bit more controversial. I'm sure that those of you who've been 49ers fans for more than a couple years would know that. The guys over at Boys Deli, those guys have been 49ers fans for a while. And this is the food recommendation part of this tour of San Francisco. The Dutch Crunch Bread. Very unique to the Bay Area. This right here is the Sandlot with some turkey and the remoulade that they have at the Boys Deli. Go check it out on Polk Street, and then you can obviously take it up here to the water. I'm obviously at the Dolphin Club here at the north end of Polk Street, San Francisco's aquatic park. Anyway, Trent Baalke, he's going to try to win against the 49ers. He couldn't do it in his first try back in 2021, but that was back when Urban Meyer was Jacksonville's head coach. Now, Doug Peterson is Jacksonville's head coach, and Doug Peterson obviously has some success under his belt. Won the Super Bowl with Philadelphia back in the 2017 season. Now, Peterson isn't working with nearly as good of an offensive line as he was in Philadelphia for that Super Bowl. This Jacksonville O-line ranks second to last in pass block win rate. The center, Luke Fortner, has given up the most pressure, so I think this could be a big Javon Hargrave game. Anton Harrison is the right tackle. He hasn't been good either, and obviously this is the 49ers' debut of the Nick Bosa, Chase Young bookend, the Buckeye bookend. So the 49ers should be well positioned to win this game up front, both against the pass and against the run. However, they have to cover because Trevor Lawrence has been getting rid of the ball quickly. 2-4. That's the second fastest release in the National Football League. So you've got to make sure that he takes that extra hitch. If that happens, then the 49ers will be in business when it comes to rushing the passer. The coverage hasn't been good enough, and it hasn't tied well enough into their pass rush. But I do think that Steve Wilks, he's going to get this turned around from a coverage standpoint. He's got some favorable matchups to work with against Jacksonville. The best one for him should be the fact that the Jaguars' leading receiver is their tight end, Evan Engram. Over 50 catches already this season. He's 6'3". And remember that the initial plan for the usage of 49ers nickelback Isaiah Oliver was to pair him against bigger targets in the slot. And Evan Engram, most of his snaps this year have been in the slot or out wide, not as an inline tight end. Over 400 snaps as a receiver for Engram, only 129 snaps as an inline tight end. Sounds to me like an ideal Isaiah Oliver matchup. Oliver's a bigger nickelback. He struggled against the shiftier slot receivers this year. Christian Kirk for the Jaguars, he's one of those shiftier slot receivers, but you could pair Isaiah Oliver on Engram and then use one of your corners on Christian Kirk. I think that's going to be absolutely necessary for the 49ers in this football game. But you have Deommodore Lenoir. You have Charvarius Ward, who's probably going to see his share of Calvin Ridley. The key is, and I think the 49ers are going to return to a little bit more zone coverage here moving forward. The key is to figure out how to most effectively use your defensive backs so that Trevor Lawrence has to go to the kill zone, which is shorter throws that the 49ers can rally and tackle. If that happens, well, then you punish Trevor Lawrence for his quick release game. If you punish him for his quick release game, if that's not efficient, he's got to hold on to the ball an extra hitch or two. If he holds on to the ball extra hitch or two, that's where Chase Young in his first game as a 49er can eat, just like he did in the olden days, alongside or opposite Nick Bosa. That's what happened at Ohio State, and that's what the 49ers want to do against Jacksonville's weak offensive line in this game. So, favorable matchup. Evan Engram, Isaiah Oliver. One spot where the 49ers defense may not have a talent advantage, though, working against Travis Etienne, the running back for this Jacksonville team. He was college teammates with Lawrence at Clemson, and they certainly have a good rapport. Etienne's actually leading Jacksonville in yards from scrimmage, and I mean, he's the versatile type that could play well and be a key factor in a game where Trevor Lawrence has to get rid of the ball quickly. So the 49ers have to limit yards after the catch. They've actually limited yards after the catch better than any other defense in football. And, just like you talk about offensive balance, they're going to have defensive balance. You talk about good tackling being part of limiting the act, something that the 49ers didn't do over the course of the 3 games entering the bye. All 3 were losses. Prior to that, the 49ers were the best tackling team in all of football. And if they can return to that after this bye week, now that they have a fresh defense, well, I think the 49ers have a really good chance to bottle up the Jacksonville Jaguars offense, which again is number 13 efficiency for a reason. They haven't had good pass protection. They've been rather limited with their downfield capabilities because of that. Trevor Lawrence is really talented. He'll take off and run. But the 49ers, with balanced defense, I think can put themselves into position to overwhelm another offensive line. It all depends on coverage and rush working together, and that's the goal that Steve Wilks is going to have in this game. When coverage and rush were working together for the 49ers, they notched 11 interceptions. That's still good for number 2 in the entire NFL. Guess what? Jacksonville on their side of the ball, they also have 11 picks. So that's going to be the challenge working the other way against Brock Purdy. These are 2 good football teams. The 6-2 Jacksonville Jaguars against the 5-3 49ers. It's quite the test for the 49ers exiting the bye week, but they're favorites by 3 points in this football game, and they're favorites for a reason. They look to be a little bit stronger up front than Jacksonville, and they have more skilled position weapons. So it's time to see how fresh they are exiting the bye, because exhaustion was certainly a problem for the 49ers before it. They've got that rest, so does Jacksonville. Let the best team win on Sunday.